Hey everyone, it's Kavitha Davidson, and welcome to another episode of Sportly. As you might have noticed, things are a little different this week. We're releasing this episode on Thursday instead of Monday, and I'm excited to announce that this is going to be our new weekly schedule. As you probably know, things happen fast in the world of sports. Sports happen on nights and weekends. And even though we don't often cover live events, we do try to tailor a lot of our explainer episodes around what's currently happening in the world of sports. So making this shift to Thursday helps us bring you better stories while they're still fresh in the news cycle. So let me tell you a little bit about today's episode. We are collaborating with Good Game with Sarah Spain to bring you her excellent interview with four-time Olympian Angela Ruggiero, two women that I have known for years, that I admire immensely, who have done everything they could in their own lanes to make immense strides for women in sports. Angela won her Olympic gold medal in 1998 in women's hockey, and then went on to win 4 gold medals in the Women's World Championships between 2005 and 2011. She's a member of the Canadian, U.S., and IIHF Halls of Fame. She's been on the International Olympic Committee, and she's the co-founder of the market research firm Sports Innovation Lab. Always trust a chick who plays hockey and went to Harvard. Sarah Spain, who is interviewing her, is the host of the first ever daily women's sports podcast, Good Game with Sarah Spain. She's also the content director at iHeart Women's Sports Network. You might have seen her at ESPN on Around the Horn. She's a sports journalist who has won an Emmy, a Gracie, and a Peabody Award, and she is also a good friend. This episode is the perfect lead into February, when we will be covering the Winter Olympics in Milano Cortina. So I hope you enjoy meeting and hearing from Sarah and Angela, and I'll be back with a new episode myself next week at this time on Thursday.
Welcome to Good Game with Sarah Spain, where we're mentally preparing ourselves for a freezing weekend, like high of -1. Hell no. On the bright side, it is a good opportunity to test out our Olympic gear. It's Friday, January 23rd, and on today's show, we'll be chatting with Olympic hockey legend Angela Ruggiero about what hockey has given her both on and off the ice, how she thinks the PWHL will impact U.S.-Canada dynamics in Milan, and how she's seen media coverage change since she first took the ice and helped lead the U.S. to the first Olympic gold in hockey. Plus, a college hoops win streak record could be switching hands, Americans going head-to-head down under, and this week's Friday Fatto Figo delivers a karate chop to jingoism. It's all coming up right after this. Let's start with the big news out of Washington, California. Remember that special news conference the Washington Spirit called for Thursday in LA with owner Michelle Kang and president of Soccer Ops Haley Carter? Well, the soccer world's spidey senses were spot on. The news was that superstar forward, 1/3 of Triple Espresso, Trinity Rodman, has re-signed with the Washington Spirit for 3 more years. Hallelujah! The Spirit reps were still slow playing the breaking news, leaving everyone hanging on every word a full 15 minutes into the presser when the comms team hit upload a little too early, dropping the Trinity announcement video on the non-live YouTube channel. It was still worth sticking around for the rest of the presser, though, as Trinity was moved to tears by some tribute videos before being joined on stage by a young fan named Emma, who was rocking Trin's signature pink braids and custom pants covered in photos of Trin, and brought out a contract for Trinity to sign. Rodman's agent told multiple outlets her contract makes her one of the highest paid women's soccer players in the world, with an annual salary of more than $1 million. The Athletic's full-time is reporting more specifically that the contract is worth in excess of $2 million annually. The deal utilizes the new high-impact player rule, and per the article by Emily Olson and friend of the show Tamara Griffin, quote, Washington is the first club to publicly announce signing a player to a HIP deal. Denver Summit general manager Kurt Johnson, who signed U.S. captain Lindsey Heaps last week, said the expansion team is considering using the feature on Heaps, end quote. Certainly more news to come about how the team cobbled together HIP funds and salary cap funds to make this deal worth Rodman's while. We'll keep you updated on the story. So why was the presser in LA? Well, let's get to more soccer. The U.S. women's national team, featuring Trinity Rodman, will take the field in Carson, California, just outside L.A., on Saturday for a friendly against Paraguay at 5:30 p.m. Eastern. It's the first of 2 friendlies that the national team will play before the She Believes Cup in March. As we mentioned, the aforementioned Rodman, who played in just one U.S. women's national team match last year, gets her return here. The roster is made up entirely of NWSL players, now including Rodman, since the January training camp falls outside of a FIFA competition window. One of the players getting their first senior team call-up is recent Denver Summit signing Ayo Oke. The 22-year-old is replacing defender Avery Patterson, who departed camp due to illness. Gotham FC forward Rose Lavelle and defender Lily Reel are missing this camp while they prepare for the upcoming FIFA Champions Cup in London next week. To tennis, where the Australian Open is serving up a lot of USA on USA crime. Defending champion Madison Keys beat fellow American Ashlyn Kruger 6-1, 7-5 to advance to the third round. Side note, Ashlyn Kruger is not the offspring of formerly betrothed soccer couple Ashlyn Harris and Allie Krieger. Moving on. World number 6, Jessica Pegula, bested her own doubles partner, McCartney Kessler, in a singles match on Wednesday. Awkward. But wait, there's more. Americans Peyton Stearns and Amanda Anisimova face off Saturday morning, Melbourne time, tonight, our time. And we're recording this before Coco Gauff is across the net from another U.S. player, Haley Baptiste, on Thursday night, our time. Oh, you're killing us, Oz. More tennis. Speaking of Coco Gauff, the tennis pro is finding time to give back despite being knee-deep in a Grand Slam tournament. The United Negro College Fund announced on Tuesday that Gauff donated $150,000 to support scholarships for student athletes at HBCUs. This is her second major donation to the fund. She gifted $100,000 last year. At a press conference at the Aussie Open on Wednesday, she said she would have liked to follow in her family's footsteps and attend an HBCU, but, she was crushing it on the pro circuit. Here's more from Gauff.
I feel like HBCU tennis a lot of times doesn't get the funding that they need. So for me, I would just always try to uplift marginalized communities and, support where I can. And I'm happy that I was able to do this for the second year in a row.
Way to go, Coco. To college hoops, the NYU women's basketball team continues its long win streak, like 11 DOs in that long. They've won the last 76 games, meaning the last time they lost was all the way back in 2023. Tonight, they're going to try to make it 77 wins in a row when they face Washington University in St. Louis, a team that once had its own you get it. WashU holds the all-time record for longest win streak in D3 women's basketball. From 1998 to 2001, they won a whopping 81 games in a row. But NYU's creeping up on that record. Win or lose, NYU will have to regroup quickly. They've got a game against University of Chicago in Chicago Sunday at noon Central. More college hoops. Another busy weekend. On Saturday, number 1 UConn plays Seton Hall. Then on Sunday, number 12 Ohio State takes on number 10 Iowa. And number 5 Vandy travels to Columbia, South Carolina to take on the number 2 Gamecocks. Also, you may want to double check game times as the weekend goes along, because that cold weather we were complaining about at the top of the show, it's coming for college hoops, too. The major winter storm we're getting is projected to bring snow, ice, and low temperatures from New Mexico to New England starting today. And it's causing some conferences to move games earlier or later to try to avoid the worst of the storm. Like that UConn-Seton Hall game, that got moved up to Saturday. And the Princeton versus Brown game, that got bumped to noon on Saturday. So, do a quick search so you can avoid missing tip-off. To Unrivaled, where the players are probably pretty happy that the league picked Miami as a home base. Only thing that might freeze down there is the iguanas. Fun fact, when the temperature dips below 50 degrees, iguanas go into a temporary frozen state and fall out of palm trees. They're good, though. When it warms up, they spring back to life and get moving. Back to Unrivaled. It's yet another busy weekend of games tipping off tonight at 7:30 p.m. Eastern when the second-place Rose BC take on the fifth-place Mist, followed by the fourth-place Phantom against the sixth-ranked Vinyl. Both of those games are on TNT and True TV. And yeah, I said second place Rose. The defending champs dropped behind the Laces, who lead the league at 4-1. Another storyline to keep tabs on this weekend, can the Lunar Owls turn their bad start around? Without star Nafisa Collier, the Hootie Hoos have been struggling, posting a 1-4 record in their first 5 games. Also, remember how we told you Paige Beckers won $50K for winning the Unrivaled free throw contest? At the time, she said don't pocket watch when asked where she's spending it, but we didn't have to wait long to find out. Beckers pledged $50K to the Hopkins Strong Relief Fund. Per a statement from the Hopkins Education Foundation, quote, with families in Page's school district, especially immigrant families, facing food insecurity and struggling with rent and utilities due to the heightened stress and uncertainty in our state, Page committed her matching donation to the hashtag Hopkins Strong Relief Fund this week, end quote. You a real one, Paige. To the PWHL, where it's the final weekend of regular season games before the league's Olympic break begins next Thursday. And the game we're most excited for this weekend, Sunday's matchup between the New York Sirens and Minnesota Frost. As of this recording, they're second and third in the standings, respectively, behind only the league-leading Boston Fleet. And as a reminder, folks, we're talking about the New York Sirens, who finished dead last in the standings in the league's first 2 seasons, but have turned things around in year 3. They will be without Taylor Girard for this one, though, as she was handed a 4-game suspension after illegally leaving the bench in the TakeOver Tour game in D.C. Sticking with hockey, The Athletic conducted an anonymous player poll for the first time since the PWHL launched in January 2024. The Athletic says about 25% of the league's players, representing all 8 teams, took part. And per the results, 80% of respondents said Marie-Philippe Poulin is the best player in the league. And fellow Canadian Emily Clark was voted most underrated player in the league. As if to prove their point, Captain Clutch added another highlight reel moment to her lengthy resume with a Spinorama OT game winner against the Frost on Wednesday. We'll link to Poulin's goal in the show notes so you can watch it in extra slow-mo, the way it should be enjoyed. As for the poll, always interesting to see how the players rate each other. And hearing our guest today, Angela, share how much she wishes the media would have talked about her actual game and not just human interest stories, has me wanting to get more players on record actually breaking down their teammates' and opponents' skills. This is a little bit of a start. We'll link to the full survey results from The Athletic in the show notes so you can check it out. To the slopes, bumps, rails, and knolls, the U.S. ski and snowboard team announced its full 97-athlete roster for the upcoming Milan Cortina Games on Thursday, a team that encompasses everything from alpine skiing to cross-country to ski jumping to snowboarding, a.k.a. all the snow sports except for biathlon and ski mountaineering. While plenty of athletes like stars Lindsey Vonn, Michaela Schifrin, Jessie Diggins, and Chloe Kim had already mathematically clinched spots over the last year, other spots were awarded using a combination of more recent results and discretionary selection. And one of the announced names that stood out to us, ski jumper and friend of the show Paige Jones, who will make her Olympic debut in February. If you didn't listen to our ep with her, the one where we learned about the infamous crotch machine, definitely go back and listen. There are also a few notable athletes who didn't make the cut, including 3-time Olympic snowboard medalist Jamie Anderson, who was away from competition for much of the last 4 years due to the births of her 2 daughters. The 35-year-old officially returned to competition in September, but she wasn't able to produce the results necessary to earn a spot on what would have been her 4th Olympic team. Also finding themselves on the outs, all 3 Masuga sisters, who you remember Alex interviewed at the USOPC Summit. Lauren, the alpine skier, tore her ACL in November, ending her Olympic hopes. Allie, who competes in moguls, and Sam, who competes in ski jumping, came up short in their bids to earn spots. Slices, big congrats are in order for Sydney McLaughlin-Levrone, who shared on Thursday she's expecting her first child with husband Andre. McLaughlin-Levrone, the world record holder in the 400-meter hurdles, who also won last year's world title in the 400-meter flat, wrote on Instagram, quote, "Made a human with my favorite human," end quote. We'll link to her carousel of baby bump photos in the show notes. We're not sure when she's due, but whenever it is, you better bet that baby's going to be early. Probably going to run itself right out of the womb. We're going to take a break. When we come back, our conversation with one of the OG U.S. hockey greats, Angela Ruggiero. Joining us now, she's a former ice hockey defensewoman, gold medalist, and 4-time Olympian. She was a member of the U.S. women's national hockey team, medaling in 4 straight Winter Olympics, and she was a national champion at Harvard. Hockey Hall of Famer, class of 2015. She's the all-time leader in games played for Team USA, male or female, with 256. She was a member of the International Olympic Committee from 2010 to 2018 and served as a member of the executive board of the IOC. CEO, co-founder, and chair of the Sports Innovation Lab, which was recently acquired by publicly traded Genius Sports. She's second all-time in career penalty minutes for Team USA. She's a wild one. It's Angela Ruggiero. Hi, Angela.
Hi, Sarah. Who's beat my penalty minutes record?
I will have to look it up.
This is
on the
amazing.
USA hockey site, and I was like, that would be my
Who's
proudest.
the brute? Who's the brute on the team? That's a record
minutes.
I'm happy to give away.
By the end of this interview, we will find that name for you,
right,
and
perfect.
you can decide who would win in a bare-knuckle brawl. Thanks for joining us. We're getting you fresh off the Beanpot Championship. Happy to see your Harvard girlies get the win, I presume.
Yeah, it was a great game, BU versus Harvard, last night at the Garden. Over 10,000 people showed up, and yeah, great night for women's hockey. Harvard walked away in a penalty shot off a trip in overtime, so no better way to win the pot than that dramatic fashion.
There were 47 Beanpots. This was the 47th, so you played in a few of your own?
I have 4 pots to my name. Yeah,
Ooh.
we had a sweep when I was there. It was fun.
Oh, you didn't just play. I'm so sorry. You dominated.
But we didn't play in the garden. And I was joking because I did the cast last night for Nesson. The pot was this like ceramic. It was literally like a ceramic trophy that could break if you dropped. It was a literal pot, and now they have a proper trophy. So the 20 years since I've played, it's graduated.
Things have changed a bit. They used to actually go to a pottery wheel and whip that out for you, and now they get a real trophy made. This was a warm-up call for you because you're headed to the Olympics. What's your role going to be at the Milan Cortina Games?
So it's my second Olympics where I'll be doing color commentating as well as studio work for NBC. So get to call the women's game, which is super exciting for me. Talk hockey, shine a light on some of the stars of the game. And it'll be fun.
Are you calling all USA as far as you know?
No, I'm calling everything. So it's a 10-team tournament. Japan's playing. France is playing in their first Olympics. There's quite a few teams outside of U.S. and Canada, the usual suspects that are participating. So, I'm in the middle of learning the rosters and trying to understand the storylines and, hopefully shining some light on some of those lesser well-known teams as well.
Producer Alex and I were talking about how the ice hockey tournament works the other day, where there's a group that is going to advance regardless, but they play against each other to sort of get some good quality competition in advance of the elimination rounds. And then there's a group of teams that have to play to beat each other in the group stage in order to advance to that elimination. Which would you rather be in? Do you want to play against lesser competition and cruise your way to the next round, or do you want to see some of the best teams before it quote unquote counts and you can be eliminated by one?
Yeah, I would definitely rather be in Pool A, which 5 teams are in, the top 5 countries in the world, pre-qualified to be in that pool. You get to see each other, and those points count in terms of final ranking because the best team will play the worst team in Pool B. Whereas Pool B, it's basically like numbers 5 to 10, including the host country, Italy, who gets an automatic bid. You don't really get that high octane kind of competition. And then you're going to smack dad hit it in that sort of crossover, that quarterfinal. So get them going. The points still matter in terms of ranking for the quarterfinals.
Elimination,
I think it also, Sarah, it helps in terms of just parity, because I've played on some of those games where, you blow out a team at the Olympic stage, and that's no fun for anyone. So this also, I think, allows sort of the scores to be a little bit more balanced across the board.
Yeah. Is there anything that you learned from calling the Olympics before that you'll use this year?
Well, I'm doing it remote, which is really hard. Some of my games will be live from the studio, and some will be live from, actually Milan. I'll split my time. But I think overall, just one thing that's different for the Olympics compared to maybe the pros or NCAA, that you have a regular following of fans, is people are learning these players, these teams, these storylines for the first and maybe only time. And so my job as a broadcaster is to bring kind of that flavor, that outside perspective, that human interest. So I'm really going to try to lean and get as much of that as I can to share with the audience.
So even when you're in Milan, you'll be in a studio watching from there?
Yeah.
Wow, that's wild. Okay, but you'll be in Milan, so you could potentially get some of the storylines of talking to players and getting some of that color around it before the games if you have a chance.
Yeah, and I'm going to try to call as many players that I know and, connect to some in advance. It's hard. There's a language barrier too. Think about Team Japan, who I'd love to promote. I don't speak Japanese, so I'm going to be relying on whatever their teams are able to provide. So there's a little bit of a bias in terms of like English for me. But the primary audience here obviously is NBC's audience in the U.S.
We'll get back to the U.S.-Canada rivalries that have taken place over the years and what you expect from this year. But I want to go all the way back to the beginnings of Angela Ruggiero, the California kid who falls in love with hockey. How did that happen?
So my dad grew up playing in New Haven, Connecticut. He got the bug as a kid. Signed up my brother because he wanted his son to follow in his footsteps as a goalie. So Bill signed up and they said, "Do you have any other kids?" He's like, "I have a couple daughters at home." They said, "Can we please sign them up? We need more bodies for this Mite hockey team." So we were 6, 7, and 8, all playing on the same team. They gave us a 3 for the price of 2 discount to encourage us to sign up. And so, California, not a lot of hockey, less than a dozen rinks when I started. 5,000 girls and women playing in at the time in all of America. And you fast forward today, the growth that it's seen. But yeah, when I started, there was not a lot of hockey, a lot of driving, a lot of hours in our vans.
Did you dream of like playing in the Olympics as a kid? The women weren't even competing in the Olympics yet.
You know what's crazy, Sarah? I had a hockey card of the men's 1980 Olympic team in my wall. I'd never seen the game, but I had this like picture in my head, like I want to do that one day. I didn't see women's college hockey. Women's Olympics didn't exist. I was a hockey player for career day in the second grade. I showed up in all my smelly gear and they were like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm a hockey player." I just knew I wanted to be a hockey player. I didn't know what it was going to look like. And for whatever reason, it happened. I remember when I found out women's hockey was going to be in the Olympics for the first time in '98 and just made that my new dream. Not, oh, I want to play in the
Just
NHL
more specific. Yeah.
Yeah, and it just like made it real. I remember having the Wheaties box my dad cut out for me with the Olympic rings on it on my wall. And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do that one day. And
that's awesome.
There's this false sense of, not in true sense in this case, of like,
for the rest of us, false sense. For you,
but I don't know. It's you hear this too. I loved hockey. I had a lot of adversity. Called names, cut from teams. I was the only girl in the whole state of California for my age growing up. But I think that made me stronger in a way. And I loved the game. It was so fun. Like, I think it's the best sport in the world. And there's a lot of sports out there. I know there's probably the big debate, but you can never perfect it. There's always something else you can work on.
Yeah. And what other sport are you skating on knives? I mean, truly, it's a wild invention. You ended up leaving California, though. You went to boarding school at Choate in Connecticut. Did that feel sort of necessary to be able to compete at the highest level?
That honestly was more for my education. My parents were like, wow, one of the best prep schools in the world. I didn't even know what a prep school was. Mm-hmm. Wants to bring you to play here. And, coming from a family, my parents never went to college. We didn't have a lot of money growing up. So this was like chance of a lifetime to get a great education and play hockey. So I switched to girls hockey, actually, when I made that move. Played for a club team called Connecticut Polar Bears. But then I actually had like a locker room I could hang out in and teammates that I really enjoyed hanging out with outside of the rink. So it came with kind of the benefit of, this is like fun in the locker room. It's not just hockey all the time.
I had no idea your parents didn't go to college. I'm just picturing a completely different, dad's from Connecticut. Let's send her back to the old boarding school and make sure she goes to Harvard like the rest of the family. And
no,
instead it's like completely different.
I'm not a silver spoon. I mean,
wow.
I had free lunches as a kid. I mean, we had no money. Hockey was my way out. Hockey gave me like literally everything. So yeah, Choate, it was like, oh my God, I know of Choate because my dad's from Connecticut. Like that's where JFK went. Holy moly. And you should go. And then that experience opened my eyes to like, I could go to Harvard. I could get like a college degree now, something my family, again, never had the opportunity to do. So yeah, hockey gave me everything. People assume I'm, silver spoon legacy kid. I'm like, no, I had to earn this. That's why I love giving back to sport. I'm like, it's given me everything.
That's so fascinating. I never knew that about you. Okay, so you mentioned that 98 was the first time women's hockey was competed in the Olympics. You were still at Choate when you made the roster for that games, the youngest member on the team. It was led by legendary captain Cami Granato. What stands out to you most about those games in Nagano when you remember back to the very first time?
Well, one, that it was a team of 20 rookies. Like even though I was the youngest and I was the baby on the team, we were all experiencing it for the first time. And there's nothing like that where you walk into the village and you all look at each other like, wow, this is so cool. Or, you go out into the opening ceremonies for that first time. And, collectively we're all like, oh, doing it together. I think to me, it's a lesson I take for the rest of my life. And I'm still, we have a WhatsApp group from that team, and we're just bantering and wishing everyone happy birthday even to this day. Like I get a text from them, I'm like, all right, I'm busy. Like, stop annoying my phone. But like doing it together, winning on that stage, opening the world's eyes up to women's hockey. No one knew it existed, and doing it in a way that we weren't favored to win. We'd never beaten Canada in a major tournament. So to do it at that stage. And I remember Cammie, who was a legendary captain, she went on David Letterman, and we were on the Wheaties box, and we were the it girls in those Olympics. And that's not what we were trying to do. We were just trying to play hockey and win a hockey game. But the effect that it had after, like, that's crazy to think what we did, all those years ago. So the team itself is what I remember the most, and that's what I take with me.
It's also wild to think about. You're right. No matter whether you're the still high school kid or Camby Granado is this legend or anyone on that team, there's, of course, a little bit of a caste system based on age and experience, but none of you had ever experienced the Olympics. That's wild to think about. Like, that is so very rare on any team to not have the veterans be able to tell the younger players, and then this is how you prep for this, and then this is going to happen, and we're going to do this. So to be a part of the very first is really cool. You mentioned, though, that you had these pop culture moments that you broke through because of winning it all, being the first. The amount of media coverage back then, though, was not great. In 98, CBS aired just one game from the women's tournament, gold medal game, and even that wasn't the whole game. They only aired part of it. First, do you remember getting home from the games and hearing from folks whether they were actually able to watch you or not, or whether they were able to see the game?
Yeah, it was like 5 or 6 in the morning with the time difference. So actually, Choate, you mentioned Choate, my school again, the headmaster gave everyone the school that day off.
Sick.
But opened the auditorium, basically our art center, and aired the game. So everyone got up super early and watched it live, because you had to watch it live. You don't have,
I'm getting the chills. Like, I can't imagine my whole school watching me, like waking up to watch. That's so cool.
I have a picture from like the Wallingford Times of, a picture of everyone watching like this. And yeah, to your point, not many people have seen me play. Even now, they're like, were you a goalie? You were pretty good at hockey. I'm like, my sons, my young kids, I'm like, no, I actually played. There's just not that digital history of that era of hockey players. So you mentioned Cammy Granado, one of the best ever. Like, probably very few people have ever even seen her play or seen myself play. So it's a little bit different, but I think breaking through and, again, Letterman and being in all the newspapers, we were at the front of the New York Times. People at least heard of hockey. They're like, oh, women play hockey. Oh, there's a college system. Oh, there's a national team you could play for. That is, I think, how we broke through, and why, okay, I want to do that, Mom. We slowly got girls signing up. The NCAA 2 years later made women's hockey a full NCAA sport. So my first 2 years at Harvard were the AWCHA, and my second 2 were in full NCAA. So that was really like the 2000s had a monumental shift in terms of mainstreaming women's hockey, but it started with that 98 team.
My producer, Alex, is saying it wasn't actually airing live at 7 a.m. It was on a tape delay, but it was 98, so no one knew that it was delayed. And it wasn't delayed like till 3 p.m. when everyone could watch, or even 7 p.m., but it was just delayed till 7 a.m. So, but yeah, back in the day, we never knew any better. Yeah. We just opened up our TV guide and figured out what time something was going to be on, and found out that, Bo from Days of Our Lives died again and came back as his evil twin, or whatever the hell was going on back then. Have you watched that full game ever?
Maybe once or twice, mostly the highlights. I can't watch the 2002 Olympics where we got the silver.
Yeah.
we choked in those, so that's harder for me to watch. Blame you. Same thing in 06, but I see bits and pieces. It's in my head, some of it's in my head.
What advice do you have for the youngsters on this year's U.S. Olympic team? A lot of younger players there, having been the youngest member of that team.
Just to enjoy it, honestly. I find, and even as I got into my 3rd and 4th Olympics and I was now the veteran, like, enjoy it, but be present. So on the one hand, if you're a player that's in your head a lot, like, try to be present, try to have fun. That's, you earned your spot. And on the other hand, like, expect distractions. So when you get, you're so enamored by everything around you, you gotta rein it in. Right. So it depends on who you are as a player. I've seen some go in with like tons of nerves, and those are the players I'm like, let's go have a dance party and like lighten up. And then there's players that are so dialed in. I'm like, hey, take a breathe, look around you, like, relax a little. We're gonna be great. So I think it depends on who the athlete is.
One of my good friends from high school, one of my teammates was an Olympic pole vaulter, and everyone would get so confused because when she was competing, she would have a stack of magazines like Marie Claire, Cosmo, whatever, and she would just sit and read them. She wouldn't watch anyone else jump. She would wait till she was about to go, put her magazine down, go jump. And that was just the way she had to do it.
It's funny though, in a hockey locker room, you can kind of sense who people are. Like I was always a player that like, I'd have like rap music or techno music. And I got to get myself going. And I loved that. I was like, I'm going to go. And then I'd look to my right and I'm like, someone's reading a book or, just like super casual and not like talking. And I'm like, come on. And then one day I realized I'm like, oh, we're different. Like,
we're all prepping differently.
People prep differently. You got to respect.
I was the crazy person with the headphones in that had the same exact playlist. I had to eat my Michael Jordan secret stuff candy. I had to make a 23 out of my tape for all my starting marks. Like everything was like very regimented. And later in life, I started to learn a lot of the tricks of mental health in sports. And I was like, I was doing it wrong. I definitely should have been a little more loosey-goosey about it, not put so much pressure on myself. We have seen this U.S.-Canadian battle for years and years, and you were a part of so many of them. We actually had Julie Chu and Carolyn Willett on the show to talk about what it was like starting to date each other while being rivals and keeping their relationship secret while they were playing. And there's just so much behind the scenes that none of us ever know about this hated rivalry. Give us some good stories about just how much these teams have hated each other in these battles over the years.
Yeah, if you haven't watched U.S. versus Canada women's hockey, you have to tune in. I always say it's like the Yankees and the Red Sox, you'd think are this heated rivalry, but you can't trade players. You literally see the same players. So Haley Wickenheiser, Jana Hefford, or Carolyn Ouellette, like this era of player, you see for 10, 15 years. And you remember, oh, you got me in that game, or you stuck me in this game, or you said that, you carry that rivalry forward and then you pass it on to the next generation. You're like, oh, you got to get him. Now, I think there's a lot of mutual respect because at the end of the day, you're 99.9% the same. Like you're a female hockey player with the same sort of training and opportunities and conditions, trying to achieve the same growth of the sport. Like if you isolate relative to everything, you're kind of the same.
Yeah.
But
just a little border.
Emblem.
Just a little border.
You got a little emblem thing going on. And there's so much pride that goes into that. And the good thing is the rivalry just goes back and forth. So it's, it's so unpredictable. And in this series this year, U.S. has beaten Canada 4 times in this, this sort of pre-Olympic rivalry tour that they have. But that, throw it out the window. Who cares? We beat Canada 8 times in 2002, and then they beat us on the one day that counted. So I kind of throw all the, you won the Worlds last year, or you won this series, like, great. Who's going to show up now? And that's like why people watch. It's like one moment. I hate it because you could be the better team and you lose. But you could be the underdog and win. And, it's all about who shows up on that, those 2 weeks of play.
We got to take another break. More with Angela in just a second. We've heard from players in the past that U.S. and Canadian players would not even get on the same elevator as each other in the past. But now this is the first Olympic year post PWHL. So many of the world's best players from the U.S. and Canada are playing together on teams. Do you think it will have an effect on the Olympics in terms of the vibes out there?
I think it's definitely, I see more respect, I think, now. With that, U.S. and Canada have had to work together to get, to elevate the game. But I think you're still going to have, I'd stand a little taller on the elevator. You're trying to get your inches wherever you can, wherever that is. And every team wants to win. Even Caro and Julie, they wanted to beat each other. I saw that. No one was going light. So it's shifted a bit because I think the collaboration has been amazing to see, and how, who cares what border you're on? We're trying to grow the game. But believe me, when the puck drops in Milan, everything will be on the line. And that's what you're playing for. Like, the intensity and the success of that tournament will dictate, are those players going to make more money, have an opportunity when they're done, just have that pride. So
It's a lot on the line.
It's changed, but I mean, one thing I remember in 2002, a story was fabricated that we stomped on their flag, and years later it comes out that the captain of the team made the story up. But that fired up Canada. They played harder because they're like, they're stepping on our flag, and we're like, what? So you can imagine the level that you'll go through just to get a little bit more out of your team.
Now we got ChatGPT in the mix. We can actually make a video of you stepping on the flag to start sending around. It's even worse now. You mentioned how much is on the line, and personally for individual players, a ton. Sponsorships and people in America knowing who you are and spreading the word of hockey, but also for the PWHL, there's a lot on the line because this is the first year of a potential Olympics bump. We've seen this for leagues like the NWSL, for the WNBA, like fans going from an Olympic tournament and wanting to go watch the players they just fell in love with. How do you see the PWHL being able to take advantage of it this year?
I hope they do. I mean, the NHL is always... they've never really put a number on it, but when the men participate, they get a bump. The Olympic audience is different than your NHL audience or your PWHL audience. It's a broader, the volume is higher and it's much broader. So you have people tuning in watching like pole vault from Namibia, and you're just like, oh, this is so interesting. And you might follow that league or that athlete. So that human interest story and the exposure absolutely, I think, has follow-on opportunities to bring in new fans to new sports. So women's hockey in this case is great because the after effect will be you follow those athletes, you follow those countries, whether it's the PWHL, the NCAA, or any other sort of league around the world, is real. And fans fall in love. They'll fall in love with hockey. They'll fall in love with women's hockey, in my opinion. They may only watch it every 4 years, and hopefully they'll say, oh wow, Hillary Knight just scored that game-winning goal. What team does she play for? And they'll be like, oh, Seattle, we should try to tune in and follow her, post game. So that's the benefit. If you could quantify it, it's worth money, to be honest. Like the IOC is absolutely elevating these athletes, elevating these sports. And the onus is on the leagues then to capitalize on it.
And there's the heated rivalry of it all. So if we can just get some of those horny hockey fans over to the women's side to realize there's way more people fucking over here, then we can really capture those eyeballs
there's more out athletes, that's for sure. Yeah. It's kind of sad, you think about it. Like,
no, I mean, all the people watching, I'm just thinking about the poor closeted male pro athletes watching like, wow, everybody loves it. That could be us.
But that wasn't always the case. I think women's hockey has just had a little bit more time and a little more acceptance.
There's such a different expectation for what it means to be an athlete and be gay versus being a man and being an athlete and masculinity and yada, yada, yada. That's another podcast. But here's hoping the heated rivalry bump has its own impact as well. You mentioned the rivalry series matchups. First ever sweep in a rivalry series, and it goes to the U.S. Are there things you can take from how they played, maybe not the outcomes, but how they played that you'd like to see them keep doing in the Olympics?
Well, I think the Americans, as you pointed out earlier, they have a little bit of a younger team relative to Canada. Canada chose to go with more of their veterans this time around, which is fair. Every coach has a different philosophy. Do you want that experience or maybe that youth? The youth has paid off. I mean, the U.S. won the Worlds. They've won they're top of the rankings. They've won the rivalry series. And that definitely sends a message, I think. Okay, anything can happen in the Olympics, but winning 4 in a row in some of the decisive ways that they did, that's like lodged in the back of your head if you're an athlete. And on the other end of it, there's a little bit of doubt maybe that creeps in heading into the tournament. So the job for Canada is to try to get rid of that doubt. But the rosters are actually... fairly similar from the Worlds, but Canada definitely decided, let's rely on our vets and see if they can pull through. And the U.S. decided to go with some of the more youthful talent.
Yeah, America's got to walk in there with the most stereotypical USA swagger to kind of feed into the doubt that Canada already has. They need to come in as the big bad U.S. team that just swept them. And
that's hard though, Sarah. I hated being number one because there was more pressure on your shoulders. Then we're the underdog. Let's go.
It's easier to get fired up to prove something wrong than it is to just
then stay on top. Yeah. Any athlete will say that. Yeah. So in some ways, I kind of wish they would have lost one just to say,
we were nervous about it too.
We're not the best. There's, anything could happen. But on the flip side, maybe they truly are, those kids needed those wins to feel like really confident that they could beat Canada no matter what the stage is.
Who are some of the players in particular you're going to have your eyes on in this matchup? I know we shouldn't presume that the gold medal match will be USA-Canada, even though it almost always is. But from those two teams, who do you think will have outsized impact?
I lost to Sweden in 2006. So we got the bronze that year. A few players, Layla Edwards, we've talked about. She was the MVP at forward a few years back in Utica. Now she's playing D, which is...
Yeah, and the first Black American to be on the ice hockey team.
On the Olympic team, yeah. We had one in 2000, Brooke White in 2000, played for the Nationals, but never made the Olympic team. So Layla will have that feat. Of course, like Hillary Knight and Kendall Coyne, Schofield, two veterans bringing their experience there. Abby Murphy, I don't know if you've seen her. Dude, her little move, like that girl's
broke through
like
heated rivalry style.
Stud.
That was in all of my timelines, whether they were into hockey or women's sports or not, and Slices, you'll remember we linked to the video of her sort of like flipping the puck up to herself, batting it between the defender's legs, recovering the puck, and then dishing it off for a goal. Just insanity. It was like lacrosse plus hockey.
It's like I'll say the Michigan move, if you're a hockey fan, where that player took... Back in the day, your sticks weren't curved the same too. It was harder to get the puck on. No one was doing anything lacrosse style, but that first Michigan goal... Now kids are doing Michigan goals.
Yeah.
I think Abby Murphy's move made people think like, and I play defense, people try to slide the puck between your legs. You just get your blade on it, but it's bouncing. It's like a different story. You're like,
change the game.
Yeah. I mean, you got to take her body though. I would have taken her body, but anyway. Anyway, she's good. She's skilled. She's feisty too. She's a mean player. Like
she's going to try to get those penalty minutes from you.
Yeah, you got to tell me who has my record.
Trisha Dunn Lorna.
Trisha! No way. No, in the Olympics for sure.
It says most career penalty minutes, 49. In the Olympics. And you're at 36.
She had a couple misconducts. She's such a sweet person too, but she was tough.
Trisha gotcha.
Yeah, Megan Keller, I can go on. She's a great D. Canada's got some great players too with, we always have to mention Marie-Philippe Poulin, their Captain Clutch, as they call her. She scored her first game winner in the Olympics when I was still playing back in 2010. I'm like, who is this rookie scoring 2 goals in the gold medal game? And she's done it, so many times. So she'll lead a squad again of more older players. But like I said, anything can happen. That's why this tournament's so fun to watch.
You mentioned the challenge of trying to talk to an audience that maybe isn't super familiar with women's hockey. There's this balance. You want to make sure everyone gets something out of it. Sometimes people will joke about how commentators in the past go to the same old stories. We're always going to hear about Alex Carpenter, the daughter of NHL great Bobby Carpenter. Amanda Kessel, wow, she's sisters with, Phil and Blake Kessel. How do you balance the need to speak to the people tuning in that want to hear new stories and the people who might be just arriving that you need to explain Hillary Knight is kind of a big deal?
Yeah. I think you try to do both. But I do think the expectation when you're watching the Olympics is, again, NBC was the first to do this real storytelling angle. It's why the Olympics do so well around the world. It's why we tune in to watch random sports with random athletes with things we don't understand. You expect the commentators to dumb it down in some way. So it might be frustrating for those hardcore fans that know everything about Hillary Knight already. But you hopefully can appreciate we're trying to bring that audience in and give you a side of some of these players that you didn't know, don't have the time to do. So I try to balance both. I don't want to lose the appreciation though for the skill. Again, when I played, yes, where I'm from and my hometown and my height and but talk about my game, as an athlete. And this was one of my biggest frustrations with women's sports over the years too, is the longest time it wasn't hyped up. It was oh, Angela's a good role model and look at her education and and I'm talk about my game, which was good. No one knows about my game. That's what I think most athletes today want. They want you to respect their game as well as all the things that they do off the ice. So I try to do both.
Yeah, I mean, I think people will get attached to stories, but then they'll stick around when you start to give them the kind of metrics and language to have debates and argue at the water cooler about whether someone's a better defender than someone else. And we can't do that unless we're actually talking about X's and O's in the game. How do you think the game has changed since you played? What stands out to you the most about style of play changing?
I think it's definitely gotten faster and stronger, and the athletes, both on the men's and women's side, are just way more conditioned and trained, which I love. There's just, it's like night and day in terms of how you approach your body and the way that you can, as a aerobic and an anaerobic sport, you have to be able to sprint for 30 to 45 seconds, all out, super strong, and then go recover. So your heart rate goes like this and bring it back down. So that aerobic and anaerobic conditioning, the physicality of it has gone way up on the women's game. I used to get thrown in the box all the time for incidental contact. Today's player would probably hit me and like kind of give me one back because they're just stronger. They're training differently. Again, I'm jealous. The Megan Kellers of the world, these good defense can jump into the play as a defense person. Back in the day, it was sort of your 3 forwards and your 2D. Now they're almost interchangeable. So I think activating your defense has created more offensive opportunities across the board. But the game itself, I'd say in the PWHL has introduced checking only this past year. That's another rule change. Back in 1990, the IIHF allowed it. They took it out in 1992. It's kind of changed the game. So it's super physical, but you can't like lay someone out in the women's game. You get thrown in the box. The PWHL is sort of testing that. It might actually affect, I think everyone's going to be paying attention to these Olympics. And is it a rule change that we should explore again? But the game itself is just getting better and better and better. And players, I think, because they know at a very young age, they can get a scholarship, they can play professional hockey, they can represent their country. They're starting younger and they're getting more resources and support around them to be a better version of themselves. And the last point I'll make is they're staying in the game. Yeah. I retired at 31. I had a lot of hockey left in me. I could have played 2, 3. I could have played, I'm just saying, I could have played at least my 5th, maybe my 6th, because as a defense person, you're back more. There was no opportunities for me. I was like, I need to get a job.
Right.
Like the business school. Today's athlete, you can have a baby. Look at Kendall Coyne, Schofield's still playing. She had a baby, came back. Look at Hillary Knight, is continuing to play. So I'm encouraged because the best athletes can stay in the game. And like Tom Brady, they can even get better with
Make
age.
it a career.
It's great for the game. You have great players sticking around and teaching the younger players, and that just like the level's just getting better and better.
Quickly, I assume they took checking out because women are fragile and your uterus will fall out and whatever, that sort of thing. The usual reasons?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
It's like the one rule difference, but women's hockey is actually more skilled. To remove someone from the puck without just running into them is significantly harder.
Yeah.
There's a lot more angles, a lot more puck movement involved.
Yeah. And if you're Britta Curl, you still just run into people. But 2 quick questions about the career that you mentioned that you needed to get to. You have had an incredible post-hockey career. You've done a million things. We don't have time to talk about all of them, but there's 2 I want to touch on. You're now the chair of the board for Sports Innovation Lab, which was sold, right? Is that your current role?
Yeah, we're sold. Well, now I'm an advisor to Genius, who bought us. So
okay, so now you're advisor to the people that bought it after you founded it. How did it feel like relinquishing control of this thing that you started?
Well, it's crazy. It's like your baby. We started the company back in 2017. I was the CEO for 8 years. You have to raise capital. You got to sell. You got to promote. You got to hire and fire. And you're building something and you got to believe in it. At our core, we're a fan data company. I'm all about the fans and data. And I always say you'd be my first hire if you weren't in this business. Crazy smart. We tried to use data like educate the market when we realized that no one actually understood their fan. But yeah, we were ahead of the market for years, and finally the market caught up, and then Genius recognized they're building the operating system of sport, if you will. They have a ton of data already on the betting side and the performance side, and coupling that with our sort of fan engagement data, the audience data, kind of really completed the ecosystem. So it was hard because, to your point, as the CEO and then chair of the board, it's something you created, but that's sort of in some ways, giving it to a group that can do a lot more with the asset we created.
You just think I'm smart because I tout your work all the time because Sports Innovation
you
Lab was what was...
explain it. I will never forget. We have this thing called the Women's Sports Club, which still exists, that we're still building. But we had people in a room. We had a workshop. I can't remember. It was at like an NWSL event.
Something
and
like that.
I explained it, and you were like in charge of the group. And you literally like better than my analyst, explained what was happening. I was like, whoa, who is this? Like,
well, we needed it. We needed what you were doing, and
so
now there's
good.
other people doing it too. But we were desperate for data around women's sports, so it wasn't just subjective. It wasn't just do this because it's the right thing. It was like, here's the money, here's the numbers, here's the viewers, here's the fan affinity, here's the brand affinity, here's all the things that you actually need to know to sell this. And so I'm just grateful that you started it and that you had such success with it. Okay, last one for you. You're also an investor in the WNBA. You got in as part of the equity raise a few years ago. You invited me to join, and I did not because I had such a terrible experience with the Chicago Color Neutral Stars, and now I'm kicking myself because those shares are worth a lot of money. I'm wondering if you are involved at all in these CBA negotiations. Are you being clued in? I know we heard a rumor that they're looking to potentially buy back the equity that they sold. Are you getting letters about that as a shareholder?
No, we're out of the loop. They're keeping us informed. We had a meeting in December. We have an annual shareholder meeting. So they gave us the usual, here's the update on the league and how it's doing and all of our metrics. But no, they keep us out of any negotiations. We're not.
You're in wait and see.
I'm just like you, like paying attention to both sides and seeing, where this thing pans out. But yeah, that was it's crazy. That investment, I committed in 2021. At that point in time, they didn't have, it was a different landscape. Like Caitlin Clark hadn't arrived. Women's sports, that was when the Fan Project was birthed. So I'm like telling people, invest in women's sports. It is about to blow up. So had the opportunity to invest. Yes, it'll be a nice return whenever that happens. But it's happened. It's crazy. It's only 5 years from then. And but back then, no one was investing at this level.
They needed it. And so as much as I criticize them for perhaps being short-sighted in the value that they were giving up for a $75 million that's now worth something like $350 million, the necessity at the time to get that capital investment in order to fund the kind of marketing and promotion that they needed to align with the success that they were seeing around the corner, even pre-Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark, there was already this build that they needed to be able to fund and support. So it made sense at the time. We'll see if in the long run, it was the right move. It was the right move for you, and I will continue kicking myself. But next time Angela Ruggiero asks me to be involved with something, I'm in. I'm in every time. Thanks so much for coming on. It was so great to catch up with you, and hopefully maybe our paths will cross in Milan.
Yeah, Sarah, you keep it up. You're just crushing it, by the way. You are one of my favorite people, someone that's done so much for women's sports. Brilliant, by the way. Like I said, she's like an analyst. If you ever don't want to do this job, you'll get
who hates numbers.
Else.
So I'm keep you around to pump my tires.
Keep it up. Keep it up. Not else. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate it.
Thanks again to Angela for hanging out. We got to take another break. When we come back, this week's Friday Fatto Figo. Bentornado Spici Drancha. Welcome back, Slices. As our trip to the Milan Cortina Games draws ever nearer, it's time for another edition of our weekly segment, Friday Fatto Figo, which loosely translates by me to Friday Fun Facts. Today, with exactly 2 weeks until the opening ceremony on February 6th, we're going to talk about a couple of the top competitors from around the world that we'll be keeping an eye on in the upcoming games. Next week, we're going to do our Olympics 101 episode. We'll prep you for all the events, rules, history, etc., and we'll tell you about all the Americans we expect to contend for medals. But today, just the international athletes, because this year, perhaps more than any other year, we might find ourselves looking to cheer for other countries, make friends in other countries, learn the visa process required to move to other countries, ask how hard it is to create an alias, sneak across the border in the trunk of a car, maybe a plane's cargo hold, and just pop out on the other side, never having heard of America, not to mention be an American. Sorry, y'all. I got distracted. Here we go. The quick and dirty guide to the top women Olympians from outside the U.S. First, of course, those darned Canadian hockey players, led by 16 returning Olympic champs, including Marie-Philippe Poulin, Blair Turnbull, Anne-Renee Desbiens, and Sarah Nurse. Nurse, who broke the points record for a single Olympic tournament at Beijing 2022, has been injured, but you always got to keep an eye on her. You'll be hearing plenty more about this team and these players throughout the games. Next up, Eileen Gu, born and raised in the U.S., but she competes for China. And at this point, between the modeling, endorsement deals, and appearances at galas events around the globe, she's basically a citizen of the world and beloved just about everywhere. except for by the folks who criticize her decision to compete for China. But that's a topic for another pod. In 2022 in Beijing, at just 18 years old, Gu became the youngest Olympic champion in freestyle skiing and the first freestyle skier to win 3 medals at a single Winter Olympics, winning gold medals in big air and halfpipe and a silver in slopestyle. She's been battling injuries the last few years, but you can never count Gu out. Watch for Italian curlers Stefania Constantini and Amos Mozaner. The duo have never lost in international competition. At the 2022 Beijing Games, they went 11-0 en route to gold in the mixed doubles event. And last year, they were once again a perfect 11-0 at the 2025 World Mixed Doubles Curling Championship. Now they'll be going for gold again in front of a home crowd. Good luck trying to stop this powerhouse pair. And yes, Amos gets a mention here because he's a man, but he had the good sense to partner with a badass lady and ride her coattails straight to gold. I'm not really sure if that's truly what happened here, but it's the story in my head, that's for sure. Speaking of competing in front of a home crowd, Italian short track speed skater Arianna Fontana made her Olympic debut in the Torino Games back in 2006, where she became the youngest Italian to win a Winter Olympic medal, helping Italy to bronze in the 3,000-meter relay. She's gone on to collect 11 of the country's 15 medals all time in short track speed skating, and at 34, she's going to try to become the oldest woman to make an Olympic podium in the sport. The longevity is impressive. Probably all the pasta. Italians gotta be world leaders in effective carb loading, no? Staying on the track, and while we're talking longevity, meet Japanese speed skater Miho Takagi, who competed in her first games at the age of 15. She really hit her stride in Beijing, winning a gold and 3 silvers and setting 2 Olympic records in the 1,000-meter and the team pursuit. Fato Figo, the 31-year-old, heads to Italy already having won more Olympic medals, summer or winter, than any other Japanese woman, with 7. Oh, also speaking of longevity, just a casual 42-year-old figure skater who's making her Olympic debut after a 16-year retirement. We're talking about Canadian figure skater Deanna Stellato-Dudek, who competes in ice dance with skating partner Maxime Deschamps, another dude who just snuck up in here. Deanna actually hails from Chicago and grew up competing for Team USA, even winning silver at the World Junior Championships in 2000. But she retired shortly after that and started working as an esthetician. And she didn't return to skating until 16 years later. Her story has way more twists and turns because, she's 42. She's seen some stuff. Like potentially how many units of Botox I get. Because in her esthetician days, she used to work at the med spa I go to. Not joking. Small world. So we'll link to a longer story in the show notes where you can read more about those twists and turns. And hopefully not about my Botox. You remember the name Esther Ledecka? We told you about the Czech star the other day. She surprised everyone at the 2018 Games by taking gold in both alpine skiing, the Super G event, and snowboarding, the parallel giant slalom event. And she's got staying power. She won medals in both sports at last year's World Championships, too. With scheduling preventing her from alpine skiing's downhill event, an event she took bronze in at Worlds, she'll stick with trying to pull off a repeat of 2018's wins in Italy. She'll try to become the first snowboarder ever to three-peat at the Winter Games when she races the parallel giant slalom. Then a few days later, she'll race alpine skiing's Super G. Sticking in the mountains, meet Zoe Sadowski-Synnott, New Zealand's first Winter Olympic gold medalist and first Kiwi to win multiple medals at the Winter Games. The 24-year-old snowboarder made history again last year by becoming the first woman to land a triple cork in a slopestyle contest. She'll look to defend the gold medal she won in that event in 2022. She's also a podium contender in big air. She took bronze in the event at the 2018 Games and silver at the 2022 Olympics. And if you're not sure what the difference is between big air and slopestyle and all those other things, don't worry. Again, we'll do that Olympics 101 episode next week. Finally, some skeleton and gay shit. Wives competing against each other, y'all. Belgium's Kim Meilmans and Brazil's Nicole Silveira faced off at the 2022 Games, though neither medaled. But this year will be the first Olympics in which they're competing as wives. They tied the knot just over a year ago. And they want to be loud and proud about their love in Milan Cortina. Meilmans wrote on Instagram that this year will be extra special because they'll be able to, quote, compete as a married couple and shine a light on marriage equality while doing so, end quote. And Fato Unfigo, the Italian government has grown increasingly hostile to LGBTQ plus people in recent years, removing lesbian mothers from their children's birth certificates in 2023 and in 2024 banning travel abroad for surrogacy. Unfigo, Italy. There are so many more amazing women with stories we could tell, but we do got to save some of that content for our shows out in Italy. So that's all the Fatto Figo for today. We always love that you're listening, but we want you to get in the game every day too. So here's our good game play of the day. Keep sending us emails and voicemails sharing what you want to hear about while we're in Italy. We want to bring you the stories that you want to hear. Also, while you're reading about the games or maybe watching coverage, you can always send me and Alex on missions. Go find this coffee shop they just showed. Eat this peachy, drink this Negroni. We want to bring you the games best we can, but we need your help. Ooh, speaking of stories you want to hear, did you guys see that the heated rivalry stars, Hudson Williams and Connor Story, are going to be Olympic torchbearers? Torches and gay shit, y'all. We always love to hear from you. Hit us up on email, goodgame@wondermedianetwork.com, or leave us a voicemail at 872-204-5070. And don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. It's so easy. Watch. Not having to worry about roaming charges and data rates. Rating. One of one worry we can forget about. Review. After we finished recording with Angela, she told us a funny story about AT&T giving the winning U.S. players phone cards to call friends and family back home with a code that they could use for a couple calls. But someone found and shared a hack that allowed the players to make unlimited calls, ultimately costing AT&T millions of dollars. You youngsters don't even know the pain of roaming charges, and text messages used to cost money. I guess there are a few technological advancements we can feel good about, though the early non-cell phone days of my life are looking pretty blissful right about now. Shit, I've turned into an old who says stuff like, back in my day. Now it's your turn, y'all. Rate and review. Thanks for listening. See you next week. Good game, Angela. Good game, the Academy Awards, for nominating in the Best Documentary Feature Film category Come See Me in the Good Light, the Andrea Gibson film co-produced by some friends of the show. But take it away, Bianca.
Fuck you, the Academy Awards, for only nominating men's sports movies for Best Picture at the Oscars this year. Or actually, fuck you to the movie industry for only funding movies about men who drive cars and men who ruin everyone's lives in pursuit of a table tennis world title. Yeah, I'm talking about F1 and Marty Supreme. Maybe the 99ers will get considered whenever that movie comes out, though. You never know.
Sounds like I gotta hate watch those movies. Good Game with Sarah Spain is an iHeart Women's Sports production in partnership with Deep Blue Sports and Entertainment. You can find us on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Production by Wonder Media Network. Our producers are Alex Azzi and Bianca Hillier. Our executive producers are Christina Everett, Jesse Katz, Jenny Kaplan, and Emily Rudder. Our editors are Emily Rudder, Lucy Jones, Brittany Martinez, and Gianna Palmer. Production assistance from Avery Loftus. And I'm your host, Sarah Spain.
Thanks so much for tuning into Sportly. Tune in next week and every week after as we dive into another great story. And if you have thoughts or suggestions for a topic you'd like me to cover, I'd love to hear from you. Please feel free to email me at kavitha@immigrantlypod.com. And if you like what you're hearing, rate and review us on your favorite podcast app. Sportly is an Immigrantly media production. This episode was produced by Paroma Chakravarti. Our executive producer is Sadia Khan. Tune back in next week and every week after for more Sportly.